through the valley of the Shenandoah from the farmlands of Pennsylvania, over the Blue Ridge from Tidewater, Virginia, and treading the mountain passes from the Carolinas came the first settlers of Tennessee. They brought few belongings, rifles, cherished utensils, and in saddlebags, a few books, the first library in Tennessee. Those who had book learning put names on the land, names that reflect the classical learning of the day. The wilderness gave way to the axe, and the valleys to the plow. The saddlebags carried their burdens of learning from the Great Smokies to the bluegrass pastures of the Central Basin and the cotton fields on the bank of the Mississippi. As the land was conquered, the scholarly tradition was maintained through the creation of the State Library in 1854. And for those who could not attend the few existing colleges, its shelves took on the burden of the saddlebag library of the pioneers. The State Archives became a part of the library in 1920, and as a storehouse of Tennessee history, adds to the richness of this legacy from the past. The archives remind us that the industry of our ancestors was tied to the plantation. But the simple devices of the past were hardly a hint of the changes to come. The old gave way to the new, and the simple skills of a former age were outmoded by an infinite variety of complex processes. Across the entire state, scores of industries have sprung up, giving balance to what was once an agricultural way of life. Imagination once stopped at fence corners. Now it rises to the boundless possibilities of the future. The night that ended in a brief flicker of candlelight is over, and electricity brings a new leisure to replace former drudgery. The ancient barriers of time and distance vanish. The world beyond the horizon is within arm's reach. And as life is no longer simple, day-to-day thinking must be more comprehensive. But young Tennesseans are meeting today's challenges through the intelligent use of books. There's a sturdy democratic idea that books are for everyone who wants to read. They are for the housewife learning to hook rugs, for the clubwoman learning flower arrangement, for the newlywed learning to cook, or for the working girl taking a university extension course, for the man who builds a chicken house, or the householder who wants to make his own furniture. Yes, there are books for everyone. There have been distinguished libraries in Tennessee for generations, serving the city people and scholars. But now their activities go far beyond the routine checking out of books. They encourage the discussions of great literature, They foster the appreciation of fine music and study of the lives of great composers. They distribute significant films, the main source of which is the film library at the University of Tennessee. And for the children, they offer activities in keeping with their range of interests. Remain for the regional library service to meet the rising demand from small towns and rural areas for books to study and enjoy. First, as a division of the State Department of Education, it later became part of the State Library, which was charged by the General Assembly to meet the people's needs in a changing time. It has packed the saddlebags again and put the books back on the road. This is the story of that service, the Regional Library Program, whereby books, the common heritage, are made available to all. In the 1930s, Tennessee took the measure of its book needs. Almost the entire rural population had no library service. In 1937, the General Assembly met this problem by creating a division of libraries, giving it power to enter into agreements with local governments. One task of the newly organized division was to develop regional library service throughout the state. Finally, in 1951, the regional service was joined with the State Library and Archives to be housed in this new building. The General Assembly has repeatedly expanded the program under successive administrations, culminating in 1951 with the creation of the State Library and Archives Commission. This 7-member board, appointed by the governor, is responsible for the operation of the State Library, Archives, and the Library Extension Services throughout the entire state. Briefly, the Tennessee Regional Library Service is a plan which provides that several counties be grouped into a library system for a better coordination of service from the state. When the participating counties appropriate funds for library service, the state likewise allocates funds, which later take the form of books and skilled library service available to the region in which the counties are located. The counties give up none of their materials, property, or control over local library affairs. If the counties wish, their books circulate only within their own boundaries. The books and services provided by the state, however, are available to all the counties in the region. This idea of library systems is the keynote of the Guide to Public Library Service developed by the American Library Association. In Tennessee, as elsewhere in the nation, there are few communities which by themselves can provide all that's needed. The program began in the Fort Loudoun region, which grew out of TVA's efforts to provide books for its workers building Watts Bar Dam. When they moved to other projects, the state and counties took over the library program, housing the state-owned books at Lenoir City. In the early days, many regional library centers were established in cooperation with state colleges, which administered the program and furnished quarters. There were 5 such college centers in the state. Other regional centers were administered by one of the county library boards in the region. But as the program expanded, regional library boards were organized to assume the responsibility. Today, there are 11 regional library centers serving most of the rural counties of the state. It is hoped that eventually all rural counties will join the system. The newest regional center was established in Sparta in 1957. At the opening ceremonies, the new regional librarian invites Tennessee Congressman Evans to cut the tape. Then community leaders are taken on a tour of the center. The building provides facilities for loading and unloading the bookmobile. Inside, there is ample shelving space, work area, and office space. The equipment and original book collection were purchased with federal funds made available by the Library Services Act. All the regional library centers provide advice and help to local library boards and librarians. From the regional centers, bookmobiles travel the country roads of the region, bringing books to remote rural communities as well as to small libraries. It stops at small country stores. It also helps a fishing camp on Napier Lake catch readers as well as fishermen. It matches the dependability of the United States Mail in its determination to serve the tiny village of Denver in West Tennessee. And it supplies books to workmen at a construction project. Cooperation pays off when the Belfast Bank serves as a bookmobile station. It is always welcome, too, at Negro Community Building. It rolls to an easy stop in front of a West Tennessee courthouse. And it plunges headlong into the hills of East Tennessee to serve a deposit station in a coal mine office. In Briceville, the women staged a tag day and raised funds to remodel this tiny building for library use. The library in Jonesboro occupies one floor of the 160-year-old Chester Inn, where Andrew Jackson used to stop overnight. And here, in what was once an old Southern home, the Sugar Hill Library serves Ripley and Lauderdale counties. Among other activities, the Saturday morning story hour is a continuing favorite here. In communities throughout the state, the library becomes the local information center. It regularly cooperates with local organizations such as home demonstration clubs, garden clubs, PTAs, and JCs, assisting them with their activities. In many counties, the Home Demonstration Club Council sponsors a reading program for which certificates are awarded at the end of each year to those members who complete the requirements. In many places, readers meet the bookmobile to help select the books to be left in their community bookmobile station. The books they select are placed in the station, from which they are checked out by these and other individuals in the community. Between visits of the bookmobile, requests may be sent to the regional library center. Books needed immediately are mailed to the station. When the new memorial building was planned at La Follette, an entire wing was set aside for permanent library use. The high standards of the bookmobile service reflect the work of specialists. It takes skill and training to secure the right books for the right people. Librarians know how to apply those skills in bringing the full benefit of books to the people they serve. Through loan service between libraries throughout the country, for example, the Bookmobile librarians can secure for any Tennessean a book on almost any subject. But there are still folks in Tennessee for whom the bookmobiles do not roll, like Jack Morgan there and young Danny.
I remember it was just the other day I saw Danny for the first time, and I recognized that look in his eyes, that inquisitive look. I couldn't help wondering if he dreamed, and I knew how books could change his world. Books could make the farm woodlot turn into Sherwood Forest. The local pond becomes the Spanish Main. And every flight of birds, another heroic conquest of space. Books could be the means by which he sees himself in the mighty pageant of history. Sees himself in the endless search for knowledge and truth. I gave him The Adventures of Tom Sawyer and asked him if he'd read it. He said he'd read about half of it, up to where Tom and Huck were trapped in the haunted house. But the rest of the book was torn out. When his father asked if he could buy the book, I had to tell him that it couldn't be sold. And because they were from the next county, the boy couldn't even borrow it. I explained that we couldn't take books into his county until the county became a member of the region. And I asked him to talk to his friends, civic organizations, and other groups, as lots of people would want book service if they knew about it. Won't hurt to try, he said, and I believe he'll find it easier than he thinks. Let's see. He should talk with Mrs. Franklin over at Bradbury. She'll favor the program, even though it'll take funds to help pay for it. And Mrs. Franklin should then take it up with the Women's Club over at the church. That's when they'll want me to explain things. Since the club maintains a little library over at the county seat, I'll have to make it clear that their library won't be taken over by the state. The women will tell their husbands about it. And when the civic club meets, they too may call in that bookmobile lady. When I outline the program to them, I'll have to be sure they understand that the local funds will be spent under the direction of their own county library board. There are some people who will object. They'll say, it costs too much. Nobody in this county wants to read, and those that do can buy their books. Others will point out that if people had more opportunity to read books, perhaps they'd want to read. Besides, they can actually save money by learning how to do many things for themselves. How to repair farm equipment, for instance, or how to reupholster their furniture, or how to put a new roof on the house, how to finish an attic, how to do repairs about the house, and many other skills. Many people have said to me that they didn't have much time to read for amusement, but that it was worth any amount of money to be able to get information when they needed it. Actually, it costs so little per person to support a library, I explained to them. For less than the cost of 10 ice cream cones a year for an almost unlimited supply of books. The next step will be for leaders and citizens to talk to the individual of the county court. In fact, some of their local leaders might be magistrates as well. Though they themselves may favor the idea of library service, the magistrates must give the program the closest attention to be certain that people really want it, that it will be an asset to the community, and that the county can afford it. In that way, they certainly won't make the mistake of setting aside funds for a service that people won't use. That's why the John Morgans, the Mrs. Franklins, and the local civic groups must present proof of public interest. For the bookmobiles...
Two, funds were made available. The County Library Board has been selected, and the county is now a member of the local service region. And the first deposit station? Bradbury, of course. Danny was the first customer. Now he'll find out what happened to Tom and Huck in that haunted house.
Injun Joe halted a moment, undecided, and then turned toward the stairway. The boys thought of the closet, but their strength was gone. They heard the footsteps creaking up the stairs.
Now you know, Danny, Tom and Huck did get out of the haunted house. Thus, the citizens of the state of Tennessee, through their own state agency, can help any county move forward toward a richer cultural experience. The Saddlebag Library, the First State Library, the archives, all have done their part throughout a century of change. Now the new state library carries the basic cultural traditions to every corner of the state, bringing to millions of Tennesseans their rightful share of books, the common heritage.